Hello once again and welcome. This week, 3 young girls were killed in England. I bear witness to them and to the soul of this nation. I will endeavour once again to comprehend Gurdjieff's teaching and learn a little bit more about human life on this planet. It is as difficult to understand Gurdjieff as it is to understand anything that is truly objective. Generally speaking, the balance between knowledge and being is even more important than a separate development of either one or the other, and a separate development of knowledge or of being is not desirable in any way, although it is precisely this one-sided development that often seems particularly attractive to people. In the history of humanity, there are known many examples when entire civilizations have perished because knowledge outweighs being or being outweighs knowledge. Knowledge is one thing, and understanding is another thing. People often confuse these concepts and do not clearly grasp what is the difference between them. Knowledge by itself does not give understanding, nor is understanding increased by an increase of knowledge alone. Understanding depends upon the relation of knowledge to being. Understanding is the resultant of knowledge and being, and knowledge and being must not diverge too far, otherwise understanding will prove to be far removed from either. At the same time, the relation of knowledge to being does not change with the mere growth of knowledge. It changes only when being grows simultaneously with knowledge. In other words, understanding grows only with the growth of being. The truly amazing knowledge from Gurdjieff, what he means is that the male force has to actually transmit to the woman, the female, the knowledge, and only when she knows it is the journey complete and the resultant achieved. In the world we have today, I'm sure you can see how the techno-science words are spiraling so far into fantasy, where our lives remain just as they were before. With one exception, the fantasy machine that people slide seductively into their right backside pocket. We live in a world that is spiraling out of control, out of the unity of knowledge and the implementation of that knowledge with what our hands and our bodies are doing. That is what Gurdjieff means when knowledge and being must be together. And so you see that any hope for our society comes from people that you would not even know, because everybody that is visible is false. And when knowledge and being are together and the energy is inside the sheath, then the light vanishes. All is silent. Plain people. Unfortunately, I was born in the middle of a city, and I have mourned every day since then. It suddenly dawned on me this week that in the 60s there were lots of bright colours, and if not exactly a rainbow, it was something very close to it. and I could see the relationship between the bright lights that flowed into the psychic sphere of society in the 1960s, the same as the rainbow of the woke. In World War II, 50 million Christians were lost by the Allies, most of them the strongest men in society. And the organism of Western society was grievously wounded, and what you're seeing is the blood, the psychic blood, that emerges and is painted on the colours of society, onto the activities of the people. It shows a lot. It shows how we are all together, and how the feelings of the organism of society are manifested in the actions of the individuals. They are attacked together, they bleed together in the psychic realm. In other words, above the level of the physical planetary body. And where was the grievous wound that led to the bleeding that we call the woke? Where was it caused? There was no world war. Or was there? It is these people, Gordon Gekko and the bankers and the corporations, who have made society bleed once again with their schemes. If we go back even further to find other examples of the psychic outflow, the strolling of the Victorians in their landscape speaks of a society that is slowing down, it's losing momentum. It is more ostentatious, and people like to see each other rather than work. Already the energy is starting to slide out of the sheath and bleed into what is visible. No doubt these societies wish to do something useful with their energy, but they did not have a metaphysical understanding of what was happening to them. And I will just quickly mention the floating world, or Ukiyo, of Japan, which happened when, after centuries of rule by samurai, their society slowed down and started to congeal, just like lava that has started to flow too far from the mouth of the volcano, and it cools. And their society cooled away from the samurai, and it started to bleed, and that bleeding was called the Ukiyo, the floating world. It was manifested as areas around the capital of brothels and casinos, where gentlemen, meaning fancily dressed people, would go to entertain themselves. It created a strange spectacle of bright lights that had not been seen before. I grew up in that world, and it's been extremely confusing for me to understand what life is about. But here we can see what being a Christian meant, and why Christians were able to raise their society again and again for more than 1,000 years. These are the 7 prayers that a Christian does every day. Prime, terce, sexte, nona, meaning 1st, 3rd, 6th, 9th hour of the day. Their timing was based on a more agricultural understanding of life, rather than the kind of timing that we have today, which is based on office life. And the Christians were aware of the octave from at least 300 AD. The octave is not something that has been developed over time in the Christian church. It was there at the beginning, showing once again Gurdjieff's notion that the ancient wisdom from Egypt went directly into Christianity. I was remembering this week a Zen retreat I had done in Finsbury Park over 3.5 days. It was extremely intense, probably 8 or 9 hours of intensive work a day. I remember lying on the floor at night, and the inner light was present, Like a subtle phosphorescence, my whole head was fully illuminated, as if there was a light on inside. I couldn't tell whether my eyes were pointing out or in. I could see in all directions at once. That is the result of intensive spiritual work that modern people have not the slightest clue about. That is what is meant by the spiritual journey, by evolution, by the path. That phosphorescence is simply the mental body. The turmoil of the earth moves very, very quickly, and only extremely intensive work, using very precise methods, causes a kernel to form, and that kernel must be buried very deep. It is amazing to think how much work is done on the earth that is outside of the line, outside of fusion, and is therefore simply a fantasy that'll wash into the drain. In a way, you could say you're born in a place where, according to the conditions, you will bleed, and you have a certain amount of years to stop that bleeding. Let's hear from Gurdjieff again. The reason why it is possible for 4 bodies to exist in the human organism, that is, the physical body, is that the human organism has such a complex organization that under certain conditions a new independent organism can grow in it, affording a much more convenient and responsive instrument for the activity of consciousness than the physical body. In the same way that feelings and thoughts are much faster and convenient to express yourself than the physical body, so is the astral body in the mental body. They are fast, they are like light. But there is no way to use them, let alone to master them and to live in them, without the mastery of the physical world, without craftsmanship. How many will go through that narrow gate? Through history there have been people screaming up at God for salvation, but He cannot give it to you if you cannot master the work of the earth. That is the work that must be begun. Fine skill with the hands, subtle, lithe power to be able to do. I'll read a little bit from Mr. Ouspensky now and try to understand him. Try to think like this. Take an ordinary school. A boy goes to school and every year begins to learn the same thing. He learns something for a whole year, then he goes home and forgets everything and has to learn the same thing again. And again he learns for a whole year, and again he goes home and forgets. And again he comes back and learns the same thing. What will they tell him at school? This is why schools are never repeated. This is why there is no recurrence for schools. And this is what people want. They say they want to learn the same thing again. But next time you must be in a higher school. If you cannot go to a higher school, there will be no other school on this level, because you have already passed that. Would you meet the school through C influence? You meet the school through B influences. School means C influence. And you cannot go into a higher class unless you pass an examination. Quite right. But you can pass the examination and forget everything. It happens very often. But you have learned how to learn a little. Sometimes. And sometimes not. You learn how to learn and learn how to forget. It seems to me from what you have said that this sea influence is transmutation, power to transmute, and anything less than this is not sea influence. Quite right. You are very near, but you can take sea influence simply as a certain amount of knowledge. Knowledge that can be used? No, that again is definition. I said knowledge. Definitions will not help. It is strange how you don't see it, how you don't catch it, what it means simply. Transmission of knowledge means sea influence. It means a certain work. It does not happen by itself. It means somebody's work, and somebody's work cannot be wasted. Ouspensky was a very brilliant man, and the things he talks about and that I recorded may have some value, may have something higher, because he had something higher. I want to separate the wheat from the chaff in Mr. Ouspensky's statement here. What he's trying to convey is that there is a living current of actual work and the efforts of particular people that are the real substances that are conveyed in spiritual practice, and that a school represents this substance, and once it's exhausted there is no more. However, I think he is wrong when he says that schools are not repeated. They are repeated, otherwise they couldn't be schools. Like the Buddhist schools and the yogic schools that are still connected to the spring of the river, that still flows into them. And what is more, a man who has a higher quality and has reached something in himself can in fact dig up almost any well that exists, if he wishes to. Ouspensky talks here as if he is trying to tune himself into some particular vibrational frequency that will flow into him, and everything will work out. He'll get the message and he will be illuminated. As I speak now, I'm listening in the background to some Tibetan Buddhists humming. It is a resonant sea, and I feel quite comfortable in it. I enjoy it, but it is not going to transform me on its own. If I really was going to try and use this resonant field to transform myself, I would have to inside reach for the living roots that are transmitted in it and to try and work them into my being, which would be an extremely skilled way of doing things, completely distant from the abilities of an ordinary person that must learn to use his hands, or even a specialist in the astral body who must use those methods like pranayama or tai chi. That is a skill of a much higher level. It refers to something like a religion of man number 4 or 5. That is what Ouspensky was really looking for, and because he had particular qualities, perhaps it could have been possible for him. But certainly the crowds of the English who flocked in front of him, zero chance of doing it. That's the meaning of Ouspensky's teaching. I'm not sure he himself really found it. If we take him at his word, that is what it implies. In the groups of the Fourth Way, they have reduced it all to this not being negative, self-remembering, self-observation. It's quite incredible. And in that those books are full of information, and they have avoided it all. I remember listening to this guy talk for about an hour about Gurdjieff. He was still talking, but he started to get tired. Then I saw it. Ephemeral bullshit. Which showed that he'd never done any real work and never got any real results. That is an art just as old as the prostitution that goes on this planet. The answer to all this bullshit is simply to go into a traditional school where it looks, it's practiced exactly like it was 500 years ago, and work like your life depends on it. The way most people live is they have only a very slender contact with reality that's in their medical system or their belief system, and they cling on really tight to it. And if you pull their strings, they will not be happy, and if you break their strings, they will vanish. It is because that they have grown up in a world without a tradition, without a line to the line, and having forgotten all the religious traditions of their ancestors, that they are like that. Okay, that's it for this week. You all take care. Goodbye.